Now, get reaction from Lord Gavin Barwell, who was Chief of Staff to the former Prime Minister Theresa May, who herself had a torrid time, though nothing on the scale of this, perhaps. Gavin, Jeremy Hunt's statement was designed to restore economic stability and to shore up Liz Truss's political stability. How would you rank it on those two things?
I'm not sure how much it's going to do on the second one, Gloria, but I think on the first one, it was a very welcome step in the right direction. It shows what a difference having someone who believes, first of all, in fiscal responsibility in that job has made. And so I think if you look at the initial market reaction, we'll have to see how it plays out. It's positive. And so this is an important first step in restoring the country's credibility with financial markets. In terms of the Prime Minister's position, by my count, there were 6 further U-turns here from the original mini budget, and that's on top of the 5 we've already had. So what we've seen is a complete filleting of what the government announced a few weeks ago. A U-turn doesn't even really begin to describe the scale of the shift in policy.
Yeah, I mean, it means effectively Trussonomics is now dead in the water, doesn't it? Does it also mean that Liz Truss as Prime Minister is dead in the water? I mean, we understand that she's been meeting MPs. They've had coffee. She's going to be going to the One Nation Tory group. She's going to be going to the 1922 committee. She's going to have cabinet members round for drinks. Is it going to work?
So I think I'd make a distinction between two things. The original objective Liz Truss set, for what it's worth, I think is right, which is that unless we can improve the underlying growth rate of our economy, the decisions that our politicians are going to have to make over the next few years are going to be very painful ones. What she got wrong was the way of going about that. And I think that is an important distinction to make here. In terms of your question about whether having coffee with MPs will save her position, I mean, ultimately, her future depends on the public perception of her and her government. And if the poll ratings stay as they are at the moment, there's no way the Conservative Party is going to allow her to lead it into the next election. It feels to me like a lot of MPs are actually, I thought she might have a few weeks to see if she could turn things around, but it feels to me that the mood is maybe a bit bleaker than that.
Are you willing to discuss timescales? You know, you've watched, witnessed, in fact, the last 3 Prime Ministers, Conservative Prime Ministers, have witnessed when the vultures, for want of a better word, start circling. Once that process begins, we now have the 4th Conservative MP speaking publicly, Angela Richardson being the latest to say her position is untenable. Once that process of dissent, open dissent, begins, what's the timeline from there? Or is that too difficult to say?
It's not easy to answer that because, as you'll probably both know, technically the rules don't allow her to be challenged for a year of the first year of her leadership. But if we've learned anything over the last few years, Gloria, it's that the rules of the 1922 committee aren't really worth the paper they're written on. They can be changed if the overwhelming majority of MPs want them to be changed. So I think that what you have to judge here is the sort of mood music among Conservative MPs, and it seems to me that there are 2 threats. One, the one that I was just talking about, that if you look at the polling position, I don't think we've ever seen such a dramatic collapse in the governing party's position with the general public. And secondly, this sense that, well, what's the point of her staying if the entire policy agenda that she set out has basically collapsed and has had to be replaced? And I think those are the 2 problems that she's grappling with.
And can I just unpick what the Chancellor says to reflect on that? Because Liz Truss obviously made huge strength in policy on the energy price cap, the energy support scheme. That's gone out the window. We were told, you've all got help for 2 years, don't worry. It's now 6 months. We're being told there'll be a new approach led by the Treasury looking at how best to help people, i.e. probably going to be means tested. There's going to be an awful lot of worried people out there.
Yeah, so just to reassure any of your listeners that are worried about it, I think it is inconceivable that the government isn't going to continue helping those people who need help with their energy bills beyond April.
Right.
But people like me that frankly could afford to pay higher bills and wouldn't want to, but I can afford it. There is a question about whether for 2 years the government should be saying to me, you're not going to have to pay the price of your energy. And what I really liked about what Jeremy Hunt said is we need to think about what we can do that other countries are doing to incentivize people to be more energy efficient.
Right.
Because if we look at it, the government at the moment is subsidizing the unit cost of energy. So the more that it can get people to actually use less energy, not only is that good for them, it's also good for the government's finances. So just to reassure your listeners, this is not saying that all help is going to stop after April. I think it is a welcome recognition that help needs to be targeted on the people that need it most, and that we also should look at what we can all do to use less energy, because it's good for us and it's good for the government's finances.
OK, got it. Thank you very much indeed for that. And we'll see what emerges, of course, in the hours to come. Thanks very much indeed.